Slicing the boil open and squeezing out the pus, the radical reformers claimed only a bandage had been applied. The ability of the temple presidents to effectively run the movement by directing the devotees in their respective temples was severely undermined by the unauthorized. The new disciples often looked down on the temple presidents, especially if they were householders, and consequently, they rebelled in subtle and less than subtle ways against the temple president's authority. Position of Acharya, zonal Acharya, it brought with it many trappings, opulences, adoration, distinction, profit. You look at what one of the Diksha Gurus is saying. Bhaktivedanta Swami honestly stated the true facts. He couldn't have hit the nail on its head better. What is going to keep the powerful in power and keep the mass of devotees bewildered about how the GBC really does things, so that they will keep producing the results of new members and money. Hare Krishna, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. You are watching the 19th episode of ISKCON Files series. Today's episode is part of the 4th chapter of this series and is titled ISKCON Revolts Against the Diksha Gurus. In the previous episodes of this chapter, we have seen how the revolts of 1979 and 1980 by various devotees shook the unauthorized Guru system to its roots in ISKCON. The unauthorized Guru system in its zonal Acharya avatar, however, weathered these storms and continued operating with devastating consequences. The Diksha Gurus started falling from grace one after the other in abominable ways. One Guru fell victim to LSD and illicit sex. Another became a serial womanizer, alcoholic, and got arrested for hoarding a large cache of illegal weapons. Another was caught red-handed having homosex with a cab driver. Yet another eloped with his young female disciple, and so on and so on. Naturally, having been taught by Srila Prabhupada until then that Diksha Gurus are pure devotees, Uttamadhikaris, and they can never fall down, these events rocked ISKCON like never before. Exacerbating this crisis was the unauthorized Diksha Guru system, which put the entire ISKCON structure created by Srila Prabhupada into disarray by pitting the authority of the temple presidents against that of the Diksha Gurus. The ability of the temple presidents to effectively run the movement by directing the devotees in their respective temples was severely undermined by the unauthorized Diksha Guru system. It is even today. In fact, it continues to be so even today, with the GBC trying all sorts of comedic gymnastics, bringing out documents like parallel lines of authority and whatnot in trying to solve the mess, but only deepening it. But fact is, they are going nowhere with all their attempts to solve the problem. Anyway, when the temple presidents at that time in the 1980s found the overbearing influence of the unauthorized Diksha Gurus unbearable, they all came together to sort the matter out, which led to the eventual so-called Guru Reform movement of 1987. In Cleaning House and Cleaning Hearts, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu writes, in the autumn of 1984, a routine meeting of the temple presidents of North America led to a collective and public acknowledgement that nearly everyone held deep private misgivings about the manner in which the position of Guru had been established in ISKCON. They organized an immediate second meeting to further consider the issue, and thus the Guru Reform movement was born. With the engagement of a significant number of second-tier leaders, men whose loyalty to ISKCON was not in doubt, a credible and potent movement was established. The majority of North American temple presidents believed something was drastically wrong. So those words of Ravindra Swarup Prabhu should give you an idea of what was going on in 1984. In the book 11 Naked Emperors, Rochan Prabhu says, after Prabhupada passed away, the GBC no longer functioned to assist the temple president. They began to control excessively, and they amassed power and actively suppressed the temple presidents. When new devotees began to take initiation from the zonal acharyas, the power of the temple president eroded. they no longer could motivate devotees to follow their direct instructions, let alone their vision for preaching. The new disciples often looked down on the temple presidents, especially if they were householders, and consequently, they rebelled in subtle and less than subtle ways against the temple president's authority. Many problems for the local temples were caused by the zonal acharyas and the GBC which supported them. Satswarup caused one particular type of problem. Hridayananda caused another. Kirtanananda caused other problems, especially for the Eastern Canadian temple presidents. You must be able to visualize what was going on in ISKCON during those years, during the 80s. In the next step in the expansion of ISKCON, Ending the Fratricidal War by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, a paper written after the Tobacco Temple Presidents meeting in 1984. He writes, "Many people fear that the turmoils in ISKCON are its death throes. In a sense, they are. One way or another, the old ISKCON, the ISKCON of fratricidal strife, is doomed. But if we take proper measure, the death throes of the old ISKCON will prove to be the birth pangs of a new ISKCON, the glorious, self-effulgent, dynamically increasing preaching movement it was created to be. If, working together, we each take a small, sincere effort, we will see a dazzling explosion of spiritual energy. The banked fires of ISKCON will ignite, the glowing coals will flare into white heat, and all those myriads of slowly dying cinders will be fired into flames." Quite a fiery message, that one, which Ravindra Swarup Prabhu claims galvanized the temple presidents into action. In the book 11 Naked Emperors, Tobacco Temple President Vishnugada Prabhu remembered, at our first temple presidents meeting in Tobacco, devotees started sharing notes about their problems with the zonal acharyas. The Canadian devotees especially were particularly disturbed. A spontaneous camaraderie developed between us. We decided that Guru reform should be the primary topic on the agenda for future meetings. It was such a hot topic. However, after we scheduled our next meeting for some time in the spring of 1985, we immediately got blackballed by a group of gurus. My recollection is the temple presidents were forbidden to attend the next meeting. It was quite a shock to me. In spite of the restrictions imposed by the gurus, temple presidents came from all over the world to our second meeting. So you see, the GBC saw the temple presidents meeting to discuss the unauthorized guru system as a present and clear threat to them. They wanted to somehow preempt the temple presidents from meeting and uniting. But the GBC failed. Eventually, the GBC had to acquiesce and acknowledge the genuine predicament faced by the temple presidents. This is from the GBC notes in New Vrindavan News, August 1985. The North American GBC, temple presidents and gurus convened in New Vrindavan for 2 days of meetings. This is one of the first times that such an exchange was possible between the GBC and presidents. The most prominent issue discussed by the members was the guru issue. Who should be guru? What are the qualifications, etc. So you see, the GBC had to get involved along with the presidents in this matter. After this New Vrindavan meeting, one of the unauthorized Diksha Gurus, Bhavananda Goswami, made this address to his American disciples in Brooklyn, New York in August of 1985. "I just came from an important meeting in New Vrindavan of the GBC, North American Temple Presidents and senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada. We have been having a lot of discussions about the role in our society of our acharyas. There was one paper presented by Ravindra Swarupa which was unanimously accepted by all of the temple presidents and senior godbrothers who were there. Anyway, just briefly, it dealt with the fact that according to this study, Prabhupada never meant that there should be one acharya after his departure due to not any ill intention on anyone's part, but we set up the society in a way that instead of one world acharya, we had zonal acharyas, and those zonal acharyas were also GBC secretaries. Over the years, it has created a suffocating mood in the hearts of many of our godbrothers, and also with that position of acharya, zonal acharya, it brought with it many trappings, opulences, adoration, distinction, profit. You look at what one of the Diksha Gurus is saying. It brought with it opulences, adoration, distinction, profit. Puja, pratishtha, labha. and our different acharyas started experiencing difficulties. So you see, the GBC and the unauthorized Diksha Gurus were forced to take a more amicable approach to the issue instead of treating the temple presidents to their usual intimidate, bribe, expel approach. After all, if they expelled 50 temple presidents, then the entire movement would simply collapse like a pack of cards. So the GBC were cornered and had no option other than to go along with the temple presidents. Around this time, Panchadravida Swami, who had been appointed as one of the unauthorized Diksha Gurus in 1982, turned on the GBC and laid bare the truth. In the book Betrayal of the Spirit, Panchadravida Swami's declaration is cited thus: I want to apologize to the devotees for what I consider was a great injustice perpetrated over the last 9 years. As a GBC and Guru, I can't absolve myself of the responsibility for many of the injustices that devotees have experienced. What I feel is that for the last 9 years, ISKCON underwent a shift from being a very scientific and scripturally presented movement to a personality cult. The entire GBC should resign because it has served detrimentally for the last 9 years. Anyone involved with so much of the politics that went on shouldn't be in that position in future. We need an entirely new GBC without any of the former members. I feel the whole position established by the Gurus over the last 9 years is a complete deviation from the philosophy that Prabhupada presents in his books. We have to take some very positive action and quickly to keep this movement from deviating from what Prabhupada intended. We established elaborate worship of ordinary persons. We have worshipped the people who are more astute politically than spiritually. By establishing that kind of worship for persons who aren't pure, we diminish Prabhupada's position. That has created a fertile ground for the fall downs we have seen. Panchadravida Swami honestly stated the true facts. He couldn't have hit the nail on its head better. But the foregone result of the above act by Panchadravida Swami, the GBC passed this resolution in March 1987. Resolution number 5. Panchadravida is hereby expelled from ISKCON. So even this rebellion by Panchadravida Swami was demolished. Actually, this demand of Panchadravida Swami was echoed by many temple presidents in their demand for Guru reforms. They wanted the entire GBC to step down, annul all the initiations they had given from 1978 till then, and the temple presidents had to select a new GBC and mandate the new GBC to discuss and formulate the procedure for initiations in ISKCON. These were some of their demands with which they started. At this time, many devotees were still unaware of the July 9th order of Srila Prabhupada. Hence, they were all grappling in the dark. They knew that the unauthorized Diksha Guru system was egregiously erroneous, but they had no idea what was the real system to be followed. Of course, there were some temple presidents who did not want such radical measures to be taken, but everyone agreed that the unauthorized Diksha Guru system was unacceptable. This eventually led to a showdown between the 50 temple presidents and the GBC in Mayapur during their annual meeting, confronting them on the Diksha Guru issue. The GBC were outnumbered, so there was no question of intimidation. Then, how would the GBC keep the unauthorized Diksha Guru business running? They unleashed their second strategy, bribery. The book 11 Naked Emperors describes this. Finally, after nearly 3 years of struggle, the Guru reformers constituted a formidable force against the Guru-controlled GBC. A 50-man committee consisting of temple presidents, sannyasis, and other senior Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada disciples who opposed the zonal acharyas was formed at the December 1986 North American GBC meeting in Dallas, Texas. Tamal Krishna Goswami was elected chairman. By now, he had switched sides. The 50-man committee dominated the agenda at the 1987 GBC meetings in Mayapur. The committee discussed a suggestion that the entire GBC resign and new members be elected, but it was rejected due to the consideration that Srila Prabhupada's mood was more to reform someone than to throw him out. My God, what was the GBC saying? They were throwing out devotees left, right and center for wanting to obey Prabhupada. They are doing it even today. And when it came to them, what is the kind of statement they are making? So Rochan Prabhu explained When Jayapataka pleaded for his disciples and Harikesh threatened to start his own movement, Ravindra Swarup argued that we should all compromise in order to keep ISKCON together. We should not allow ISKCON to be fractured and dismantled. He proposed that we should compromise. As a reward, perhaps for leniency towards the zonal acharyas, some were promoted into the Guru Club, such as Ravindra Swarup, Bir Krishna and Narahari, the Swami in Hawaii. Instead of slicing the boil open and squeezing out the pus, the radical reformers claimed only a bandage had been applied to the wound. The original disease remained uncured. Vrindavan Chandra Swami explained, naturally, there were many Srila Prabhupada disciples who had great doubts about the zonal acharyas being gurus. In order to return to Srila Prabhupada's original pure standards, many of them even wanted all the zonal initiations to be declared null and void, thus punishing and making examples of the pretenders. These people, like Kailash Chandra Dasa, were also part of the Guru Reform movement led by Ravindra Swarup Das, Atreya Rishi Das and Bahudaka Das. However, in a Machiavellian power move by some of these leaders, there was a compromise with the remaining zonals. This is what vaulted Ravindra Swarup Dasa into the position of power that he has occupied in the movement's politics ever since, and what betrayed those members of the reform movement who wanted a return to the original Shastric purity. According to the compromise, the remaining zonals would keep the disciples they had acquired under the blatant lie that they had been appointed by Srila Prabhupada, and a number of Guru reform movement leaders like Ravindra Swarup Das and Atreya Rishi Das would abandon any appearance of principle by also joining the make show as an ecclesiastical guru. This Machiavellian pragmatism is unfortunately how things often get done in the GBC. It isn't necessarily Shastra, trying to do what is pure, or even according to Srila Prabhupada, although his instructions are selectively invoked when the going gets tough. It is too often what is going to keep the powerful in power and keep the mass of devotees bewildered about how the GBC really does things, so that they will keep producing the results of new members and money. In this way, the blatant abuses and deviations of the zonal acharyas were only replaced with a lesser evil. The remaining zonals, who had the real power of many so-called disciples and temples, were forced to come down a notch or two and largely surrender the movement's management to the more forceful reformers. Then the new bosses painted a new face on the fading patient by ostracizing the more strident reformers, quieting the more dependent with assurances of righting the wrongs, and ushering in a less autocratic, collegial, far more Western and warm and fuzzy ISKCON. To one extent or another, all the corporate ISKCON so-called gurus have to keep their tails wagging for their corporate masters. In this way, the followers and leaders of such organized religions are being trained in a form of ignorance of the institution's very real deviations and contradictions. This is very, very precise analysis of what went on in ISKCON. The whole unauthorized Diksha Guru system was watered down to make it appear less ostentatious, but the fundamental principle remained the same: ownership of disciples and their Guru Dakshinas. So this did not change. So the root cause was not addressed. The root disease was not taken out. Only a bandage had been applied. In another place in the book 11 Naked Emperors, this is described thus. At the 1986 GBC meetings, it was announced that 26 senior devotees had been given blessings to begin initiating disciples, including a few prominent members of the Guru Reform movement, such as Ravindra Swarup and Atreya Rishi. The radical reformers, however, were disappointed that some members of the Guru Reform movement accepted positions within the Guru Club. They viewed this as an act of treason. The radical reformers argued that ISKCON should return to square one, to the time before the zonal acharyas took office after Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's disappearance. They advocated making all previous initiations by the zonal acharyas null and void. The radical reformers also insisted that the zonal acharyas who had taken over the GBC in 1978 and who were still in office should be stripped of their guruship and disciplined. So this was actually the demand with which they started, but eventually they ended up settling for the bribe. Thus, the GBC, by their dual strategy of bribing about 26 temple presidents with Diksha Guru position and expelling the rest, the GBC managed to keep the unauthorized Diksha Guru system running. Now, while all this was going on, Sulochan Prabhu, another devotee from New Vrindavan who tried to disrobe the Guru business, was murdered in 1986 near the Los Angeles ISKCON temple. Individuals taking on the GBC was doomed. The group of temple presidents had collective strength. They had the best shot at dismantling the unauthorized Diksha Guru system. ISKCON would have taken a completely different and glorious trajectory if the temple presidents had stuck to their guns and dismantled the unauthorized Diksha Guru system. But unfortunately, destiny willed otherwise, and they fell prey to the dragon of puja, pratishtha and labha. The contagion of the ambition to become Diksha Guru devoured the sincere attempt to reform the situation. Although this revolt by the temple presidents, which was one of the biggest till that time, floundered and failed, sincere devotees in the movement did not accept defeat. Yet another courageous bid was mounted 2 years later in 1989-90 by another small set of intrepid devotees. Who were these devotees who were crazy enough to challenge the powerful and oppressive GBC regime? What fate did their attempt meet with? Join us in the next episode of ISKCON Revolts Against the Diksha Gurus, which is the fourth and final chapter of the ISKCON Files series, to know about this. Until then, Hare Krishna, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.